This video is going to display some of the Marshall Way push-ups. These push-ups have many variations. They're designed to power up the Marshall Way weapons and the Marshall Way tools. So I'm going to start with a push-up on the balls of the hand. I'm not actually going to do the push-ups. I'm still a little out of shape from growing and not being able to keep up with training. So I'm just going to try to get into the starting position of the push-up, and most everybody knows what you do from the starting position. And I'll try to name them. So here is a push-up on the balls of the hands, and I usually put thumbs down. There it is, balls of the hands only. Try a push-up here. Here's thumbs down for a bit easier. Okay, standard. Here's on the fists. Here's on knife hands. Here's on the finger, not quite the fingertips. These are more like the flexible fingers. Here's on, I don't know if I'll hold this one, so I'm going to go to knees. Backs of the wrists. You can do, this is usually just to get into push-up position. You can't do much of a push-up here. This is something like the ridge hand. And I'll do some, here's the chair, some with the legs up. Let's see what I got. Okay, standard. Balls of the hands with thumb support. Ooh. Knuckles. Knife hands. That's about what I got. Let's see if I got the on the thumbs. I think I'm too tired for on the thumbs. So on the thumbs, I'll just do it on the knees. There's on the thumbs. Or thumb strikes. Marshall Way push-ups. In this video, I'm going to cover some advanced Marshall Way footwork. I'm looking to cover some jumping footwork and some flying footwork. There's not a big difference. The jumping footwork is what leads to the flying footwork. So I left off from the last lesson showing some Aikido, and here I'm going to try some flying 3/4 turns or jumping 3/4 turns. Sometimes I just switch modes. It's hard for me to actually be honest about what it takes to fly. I have some theories, and some arts call them flying techniques, like every time you jump it's a flying technique. Some arts call them jumping techniques, like they just don't want you to fly. Some basic theory on flying is just being powerful enough to fly. Like Superman, they tell stories about Superman, like Superman jumps over, leaps over a tall building. Then it can make you think about Superman just jumping around. So a basic technique, and I haven't done this in a while, and I'm heavier. I've been growing, I'm taller and stuff. So I had this down for a while where I pull up my feet without jumping. I haven't done it for a while, so let's see what I can get. In this one, you just pull up your feet without jumping. And of course you sink. Then you start adding techniques to it. So I like to add the upward technique. I was using some basic karate the last time I made one of these demonstrations, and it worked, where I did some moves, and I did a high block, and then I did a punch, and I got a nice high block lift and punch move forward. I am trying just to draw my feet upwards. I'm not jumping, I'm just drawing my feet up. A little flight. And then, in theory, if you have enough power, you fly up higher, and you fly straight forward further, Usually it takes ki or chi, some sort of special energy like that. So here's the 3/4 turns. I'm going to do them jumping, but usually it's partially flying. Missed it. Not too bad. What else do I have? Some jumping, sort of like flying, fencing. And this is, it's like a jumping lunge, but the point is to get in the air and then to switch your feet forwards and backwards while you're in the air. And you're supposed to make as little movement to do it. You don't have to get your feet far apart. It's just about how many times you can move them in front of each other. I haven't done this one for a while, so let's see what I get. Should be able to get at least one. It's tough to get multiples. It's a strange drill. It's a decent one. It's just big movements. Okay, so I was showing some of the Aikido basics with the 180, where you're supposed to let the opponent through. I was showing the forward step, so I wanted to show the backwards step. Letting the opponent, trying to let the opponent through. And I started working on doing this jumping, and it almost immediately goes to flying. I guess I'll try that backward step with the jump. It's really fast, and that was high. You're supposed to try to drag your feet, or not take your feet up, to draw the power out of the ground, but flying techniques aren't the same. Although I still like to try to hover around the ground if I hit flying. So, here's the forward technique without the jump. With the flight. I'm going to try it with a jump. Then I'm going to try it with the flight where I just lift my feet. So here's the jump. And I'll just try to lift my feet. Go through the technique. I haven't really done this one this way. It's going to be strange. I'm pretty sure I just lifted feet. Let's try again. I'm going to stand up tall and try to take a pause and do it. Flying technique, jumping technique, advanced martial way footwork. More martial way footwork. This is about the top of the basic stuff. Moving into the advanced. Some of it can be done in steps. Some of it has to be done in more of lunges. It's kind of blurs the line between them because it's more like a gliding step. You're not taking the full lunge. I usually consider the lunge kind of like taking a leap and staying low to the ground. So I'm going to try and perform these more as a gliding step than a lunge as I advance through it. And I'm working through two basic techniques where I'll go through the variations. And that is arcing to complement the circular footwork and pivoting in the straight line to go with the more box-like footwork. What I want to do first is an arcing back step. Like I said, it's not really a step. You kind of have to make it more of a glide step or a lunge. It's really hard to do as a step and make it an arcing step. So let's see. I'll try it as just a step. That's kind of more off to an angle, not exactly arcing. Here goes the more of a lunging, gliding step with a bit more of an arc where I drag the front foot. Let's try that on the other side. Try it with the step. So again, it's kind of a step on a line or a step on a degree. Here is more with the lunging, dragging the front foot, kind of a gliding step. And I'm trying to make more of an arc. It's nice to do this on a carpet where you can see your lines, or in the sand. Sometimes it works in the sand, although that's really hard. Let's see. So I did it to one side. Now I'll try to do it the other way. I'll try with the step. Again, I'm hitting more of a line than an arc. And I'll try to arc a bit more on the other side. I have a hard time making it an arc instead of just a line without taking the lunge. So going forward, all the same stuff. Now trying to go on a forward arc to either side. This is much more common for me. You can see I'm a lot better at it. Now for the stepping or lunging or gliding forward to a pivot or pivoting while doing so. While I was thinking of performing this drill on the video, I was thinking of more of a step to a pivot, trying to work through the degrees of complexity. So there's the step to the pivot. This is relatively simple, where you'll just take your step forward, and then instead of following up the standard way, you put the rear foot in a different position, so you do your pivot kind of like a 3/4 turn, although that was only the 90-degree turn. And then you can do that where it's more confusing to the opponent, or there's other reasons. I haven't really thought through them too much. It's usually vulnerabilities in multi-opponent combat, like staying on the line where you're safe until you're almost in your position and then you pivot. So let's see that going backwards to the same side. And I have a harder time doing that with the, so this is moving the same, that was moving this foot first. I moved the same foot first as I did going forward and going backward. Now I'll try it moving. What makes this one difficult, why I move front foot backwards first, is because the back foot has to do the pivot. So if you try to move the back foot first, it's really hard to get your pivot right, where you're trying to sweep it around, like you might want to try to catch somebody with a sweep with it, like I was doing. So now I'll try to just, okay, I'll move it up to lunging instead of just stepping, and I think I'm going to try and push it all the way to that flying I've shown in some other videos. Here we go. I'll try to just the lunge with the pivot at the end of the lunge. Kind of took an extra step, kind of fell out of position. Still a decent attempt. I'll try again. All that forward momentum is hard to hold. There's more of the flying one. I did the pivot in the air. And that's about it. Then you vary it. Try it forward, try it backward. Try it to different degrees. 90 degrees, 180 degrees, all that stuff. Marshall way footwork at the degree where the basics start to meld with the advanced.